Women's theme this morning, so we're very happy to have our colleagues from across the ditch, even though they don't live there, you know, they're expatriates, but we'll welcome them back to the region anyway. Our next speaker is Ingrid Mason from the Powerhouse Museum in Sydney. Ingrid is a self-professed metadata nerd who never realized that she found a workspace that could satisfy her interests in the humanities, semantics, and the web. Ingrid works as a digital project manager for the Powerhouse Museum. Currently, she's project manager for the ANDS project Museum Metadata Exchange, and she manages the Collections Australia network. Please join me in welcoming Ingrid.
Good morning. I'd like to encourage you to sit back and relax. My talk about the Powerhouse Museum this morning isn't heavy duty. I've just listened to the intro presentation and I realised that this is a very different journey. What I'm going to do is stroll through the theme of the conference of where compute meets data. And I'm going to talk about the museum's data and what it's doing with its data and what it's doing with other people's data and how it's encouraging people to use its data. And I guess I'd also like to acknowledge the Powerhouse Museum and particularly Seb Chan, who I work for, and Dawn Casey. If anyone knows how to clone someone, please can I speak to you later. I think Seb would have loved to have been here. And Dawn is very supportive of the technical development in the museum. I'd also like to thank ANDS for their support with the Museum Metadata Exchange. And I'd also like to thank the coordinators and sponsors for the e-research conference. It's great. And I'm really enjoying my time here. I'd also like to pay my respects and acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we meet upon today and the land around it. And talk to you a little bit about the Powerhouse Museum, because not everybody knows who the Powerhouse Museum is or what it does. Its other name is the Museum of Applied Arts and Sciences, and its collection was formed out of the International Exhibition in 1879. Its grandparent was the Technological, Industrial and Sanitary Museum, and we do have some pretty interesting stuff in that collection. We've been collecting for about 125 years, and if I can get you to pay attention a little to those statistics there, 70% of our collection is digitised. We have 350,000 records in our collection system. They're at collection, item and part level, but only 75,000 are actually online. So you can see a very obvious bottleneck in terms of making those records available, and there are very good reasons for that. Not just resources, but even to figure out how we make that available to people. We cover everything that isn't living or dead, so our collection is very much material culture, and it ranges right across those subject areas. So the theme that I guess I want to explore today with you, with this idea of where compute meets data, is this idea of inspiration and exploration, and looking at some of the examples in history and also some of the examples in contemporary society today to think about how our practice works. And I guess how the museum is in a very similar situation. Whilst it's a museum and not a research institution at its core, we're experiencing very similar issues with our data, and I'd like to share some of those with you today. The person that I thought about from the past was Shelley, and it was because somewhere in the dark recesses of my memory I remembered that I'd learned about a poem called The Cloud by Shelley. And what I really loved about this poem was that it's unbelievably flowed and very romantic of its kind, but Shelley's actually talking about the weather, and what I really enjoyed learning about Shelley, and that first stanza up there for you to have a quick look at, was that Shelley was reading the scientific literature of the time. He was very fascinated with what he was learning about the science behind the formation of clouds, and I'm absolutely sure that it's informed his poetry. And I reread the poem again this morning, and you can see that he was thinking about some of the science behind cloud formation as much as he was being expressive about the cloud in a very poetic way. One of the things I wanted to do was to place you into contemporary time and have a little look at someone else who's crossing the boundaries between the applied arts and the sciences. If I can Keith Luter. He won the Guggenheim YouTube prize this year. And what I find fascinating about this is what he has done with taking footage of the natural environment and people within it and understanding optics. I learned about this from one of the curators that I work with who looks after photographic and optical technology materials in the collection. So I guess my point is a slightly glib one, that when we look at what we're working on, it is a matter of perspective, and when people come to our data, it can be very interesting to see what other people's perspectives are. But I guess I'm also putting to you that Australian museums very much see themselves, those that have cultural and historical collection material, in a position to work with the research community and to make their collections available. But we do have some resource issues, but people like Steve Chan are doing some pretty interesting things. So I'm just going to skip through some of the things that the museum's been doing with its data and its efforts to release some of its collection data to the community to make the most of. There have been several phases of getting this data out to the public. And the first phase was actually just putting some of the collection material online and making it available under a Creative Commons license, but also making a statement about some of the data in those museum records and being honest about the fact that those records have not been touched for a long time, and some of them weren't as good as they could be, which was a bit of a culture shift for a lot of the curatorial and registration staff in the museum. Next phase was putting a zip data file up online, and the most recent one was making an API of the collection data available to hackers to have a go at. So this is the OPAC online that people can search through. And this is a collection record. One of the things I love about working in the web development area is what they do to improve people's access. And this is a totalizator, a tote machine in the collection. And what you can see potentially on the right-hand side there is at the top user tags. We let anyone tag our collection records, and I put those two tags up there the other night. Underneath that, some of the structure in the museum data is actually presented there for users to actually utilise in their resource discovery. And under that is Calais tagging. And those tags come from the Open Calais service. And they are, I guess, drawn from understanding of business information. So they target company names, people names, and place names. And you can see that there is actually crossover there that's actually quite useful because that data potentially is embedded in some of the text in the museum record. And it's not in a particularly defined way in that record, but by using this terminology service, we've actually improved access to our collection record in quite a simple and I think elegant way. The next thing we did was we put our data file out online, and this fellow is Malcolm Trebnick, and Malcolm had some hilarious things to say about our data file, and I'd like to share that with you if I can. One of the things that we did was we forgot to put out the data definition file. Malcolm was at a Python conference recently, and he was talking through hacking through the museum's collection data in this file. Not sure, but I'll do well, let's see what happens. example.
Thanks. This is the situation where you do spot mistakes. So we can mock, but I can absolutely understand the human factor that ends up with this type of stuff. And this is good data. I mean, I've seen pretty atrocious stuff. All right, so the conclusion here is dates are a bit all over the place. And in the interest of when I was preparing for this talk, I'll admit I cheated. I'm storing those as strings in my final mark. I really need, you really need to put in some effort about. We've got dates that are very specific, day, month, year. We've got date ranges for maybe a particular month. We've got eon ranges, like things that are literally spanning 1 or 2 millennia. We need a fair bit of, I'd probably write a custom Django field or maybe even have it linking out to a separate model or something. In this case, I thought, right, it's a demo app, right? I'm just storing those as strings. That was after, and this
I'll stop there, but he's extremely thorough and his criticism. And it was really good because it was an error on our part not to make our data definition file available with our data. But it also pointed out to us some of our own, idiosyncrasies and some of the weaknesses in our museum data. It's been really useful to have that feedback and also to have a good look at ourselves also. So we had a look at our data description and we're looking at ways to make it available and make it meaningful and useful for people who want to use our data to do interesting things. And so Powerhouse Museum developed an API to make available to hackers on the Hack Day, part of the Web Directions Conference. And they were extremely thorough in their documentation of the data by comparison with where we started off with, so that those hackers could actually really leap forward and start hacking rather than have to try and figure out what that data was doing. And the Hack Day was just amazing. I actually wasn't there, but I've got some of the pictures here just to share with you. But this is one of the results which I won't show. It needs to go into a Chrome browser. But essentially, this is a social space for you to be able to chat online and to actually look at objects together, which is just a delightful interface. And there were a good number of them that arose out of just making that data available and letting people go at it. So I think we were very encouraged by that. We know that other organisations were also very encouraged by this activity. But it made us really think very much about how we wanted to make the next version of the API available and to think about how we wanted to deliver this service. And that interface was Ingrid, but this is something that Steve Chang was indicating in his blog that the new versions are going to come out in RDFA. Now, I come from a library background, so structured data and formats that are used by other organisations with similar type are completely normal to me. But the museum community is working very hard to formalise their data in standardised ways so they can interoperate. So this is very exciting for me to see this coming through the museum community through its web development. But this is the Hack Day, and you can see the room filled with people. I don't know if you can see that actually. And some of the judges huddled around some of the finalists in their pick. Some of the other things that the Powerhouse Museum has been doing is participating in a Flickr Commons exercise by putting public domain material in their collection, and that black and white image at the very front is one from the material collection, and it's freely available to download. You can do whatever you like with it. It's been participating in Gov 3.0 activities here in Australia. We've also got Artifact H10515, and it's a new media artwork by Craig Walsh. And it's a monster that you upload collection data to, and it visualises that data in those suckers. And we upload the data through something called the Thingalizer, and children absolutely love this thing because they go up and look at the suckers to see what's actually in the suckers. And as an abstract notion, it's kind of interesting, and to do this as a museum display has also been an interesting challenge from a curatorial perspective. We've also got a project called About New South Wales, which is pulling together content from different cultural institutions and government agencies to draw around the theme of New South Wales and its history and what's been going on. There's also a new initiative called New South Wales Suburb Labs, which is to put local history information up online about some of the areas where the NBN is being trialled. And Seb said to me on the phone the other day, this is local history citizen journalism to enable people to contribute content from where they live. So this is pretty interesting in terms of you think you're the person with the data and then you're interested in what other people have, and you suddenly realise how much content can actually get up there online. And then you have to manage it, so it can become a bit interesting. This is a plug for my organisation, and I guess also an interesting segue to talk over line. We've got a review of our exhibition called Ecologic, and it looks at sustainability and climate change. And I think you might be able to see from that image that the Sydney Opera House is underwater there as a means of emphasising what will happen as their sea levels rise. But also in that exhibition is an interactive, which Seb has described as a honeypot for children. It's called Waterworks, and it's probably going to be released as an iPad application through iTunes. And it's interactive, and at the top you can make windmills go faster, and you can move the clouds and all rain comes down, and basically it's a means of getting people to understand the connectivity between the technologies that we use and the environment that we are in. And where that hand is pointed, I will share with you why I have the word tsunami down there, is I was listening to this disgusting noise coming from the other side of the cubicle, and then peals of laughter. And what happens if you don't deal with the sewage properly, you get one of those. And of course, children absolutely love this. But I think, to be honest, I'm not sure who enjoyed it more, the children or Mr. Chan. Anyway, this is the Powerhouse Museum, and I invite you to please, if you're in Darling Harbour, to come on in. The second half of my talk is about this project that ANZ's funding and the Powerhouse Museum is leading on behalf of about 14 or 15 museums here in the Australian museum sector. It's a museum metadata exchange, and it's quite a simple project, and this is definitely a thank you to ANZ for supporting something that looks really simple with technology, but we understand in terms of culture change, it's a very complicated process. So I guess this image is to convey to you that we're looking to pull together collection descriptions, to aggregate them, and we're looking to create a semantic layer over top of them and feed that collection data into the data columns. But this is a shift in practice for museums. They're not accustomed to describing at collection level. Archives are more accustomed to describing at that high level, but museums, even though they intuitively talk about their collections in terms of sub-collections, if you like, it's not a practice of documentation that they're accustomed to undertaking. So this is the project infrastructure, and these are some of our great project participants. We're supported by some of the universities represented here at the e-research conference and some of the peak bodies, which is great. That's why I really appreciated yesterday that there's a difference between the technology problem and the people problem. And I've worked with technology or digital development for quite some time now, and I know this might sound flip, but the technology for me is never the hard stuff, because I know there are really clever people out there who can crack those nuts, but it's actually getting people to really think about the way they do things and to look at other ways of doing things outside of their practice. So these are our museums participating in this project, and there's quite a lineup there, and I've discovered that there are, I think, at least 3 barbed wire collections in Australia. So if anyone wants to do history on material science or technology, they probably can, but we hope to be able to trace collections like Australian fashion photography or Australian agricultural machinery, so that we have the ability to aid researchers very swiftly in their efforts to come and do some research with these primary materials, if you like. Actually, I might just step to a slightly separate point there. The web manager that I work with said to me, but Ingrid, the museum's data is in the themes in its collection. And Luke Durley, who I nicknamed Professor Durley, is a very interesting man. And I said, yes, you're right. And we have to translate that data into our records to represent what we have in our collection. So our collection data is just a representation of our real data. That was a very funny conversation to be having. But we've got some collection levels that we're trying to get together, and we're in the process at this very moment, from cultural and historical collections from across those organisations. We're looking to build repositories for terminology, drawing from the Powerhouse Museum object name thesaurus, and also a collection data repository, feed that data into the ARDC, and to provide a common semantic layer, because museums don't have a tradition of using controlled vocabularies in exactly the same way, and we're looking to see how well this object name thesaurus is actually going to work for some of the material culture held in those collections. We do know that the Powerhouse Museum thesaurus has weaknesses because it reflects very much the Powerhouse's collection. And the Powerhouse does not have a strength in Indigenous material culture, but we do know that there are strengths in that material in other participating organisations. We also know that we don't hold a lot of maritime material, we don't hold a lot of military material, so we're looking to see how far that resource can stretch when we need to look at another semantic layer. That's the project website, where we've got as much information as we can take into it as we're on the go. And I just thought I'd, I guess, look at another stanza of Shelley, is to look at that idea of lightning coming through the cloud, because it feels like we've been given this injection of energy, and it's very exciting. Even though it might be kind of slightly unnerving to be undertaking all this change in a very quick time frame. So the object name thesaurus, I'm going to give you a quick snapshot. I don't know how much you will see in this next slide, but this is the isness of objects as opposed to the aboutness of objects. And I'd really like to know if anyone understands the difference between those two. Can I get some nods or hands? Yes? Yep, there's a few metadata people there, semantics. This is a quick snapshot, but essentially it covers 35mm film, cameras, Aboriginal flags, embroidering instruments, breastplates, and something called fire dogs, which I didn't even know existed, but apparently they do. So one of the things I think is interesting about extending this thesaurus across these museum collections is to understand the way we come at an item in our collection in a way that, say, the South Australian Museum might come to it, or the Australian Museum might come to it. And in this report, and I'm not sure that you can see it, the Coolamon is described as a narrower term of decorative woodwork, which is a very particular view of the world. And I imagine that something like this may well be described quite differently in a gallery. It would be definitely, I would say, described differently in the Australian Museum. But we're looking to offer an equivalent, I suppose, of the Calais service to these other museums too, and other organisations who want to use this terminology the way that we've used Calais tagging for ourselves to improve the resource discovery. So we're looking to provide what I consider to be a material culture data stream. And these are other resources, and I hope at some point services that might be available here in Australia to enable improved resource discovery and linking between these incredible resources held in these cultural institutions and in other institutions. And the one that I've highlighted there that I think is really interesting and important, particularly for material culture-based research, is the Ayaxis thesaurus, which has three aspects to it: place names, language, and subject. And I would dearly love to see something like this. We've had the benefit of the Māori subject headings in New Zealand for quite some time through collaboration. It's available to download and people use it in their cataloguing, and it means that there is this linking through this layer across different collection records at item level and beyond, and I'd really love to see that happen here. But another part of the project is that we're looking to provide a means of getting contribution from a community of practitioners who we already know exist in the museum world, because the thesaurus is actually used by other museums to describe their collections. But we know that there are more people than those that we only know directly that might be interested in contributing terminology to this. So this is the model that we're looking at, this voting model. So I was delighted to go to Jane Hunter's presentation and to look at what was going on there, and to know that there are very clever ways to look at trust ranking, because we're just going to start off with people that we know and people who are interested in contributing to look at how that interface might work, but also to get some engagement and interest and exposure across the museum sector and across the land sector, galleries, libraries, archives, and museums, to get people to think about using this tool and or contributing to it as a broader community of practice. I guess this leads me to this idea of value creation, because I hope that the work that we're doing is generating value. I see the thesaurus as a cultural asset, and that it supports some of these opportunities that we're being given, and also some of the work that goes on anyway. And this is the section of the fourth stanza that I pulled out, which is the idea that the sun is riding on the back of the cloud. I really love the idea of heat and light coming to this process and giving us an opportunity. It's a very flowing poem. But this is a phrase I've coined, and I don't know if anyone else has of object analytics, but it's this idea of being able to go into collections and look at their physical collections in the way that scientists have gone in and looked at specimens, and this definitely happens with cultural and historical collections, to improve that process where science has formed potentially relationships around shared taxonomies. The humanities, arts and social sciences have a different relationship in terms of getting access to material, and they don't form around one particular control or one ontology, put it that way. So I think this is really interesting, an opportunity to have a number of control vocabularies for this research community to utilise as much as the collective community can utilise to formalise its data. And there are two people I guess I'd like to reference in this thought. Elaine Gurian, who is an American who does some great work in triggering change in museums, and also Margaret Bertley, who was the head of the Collections Council until it closed recently. Two people who are raising the profile of museums with material culture and the value that they offer to people who want to undertake research. Cultural analytics is not my phrase. That is a phrase I think invented by Lev Manovich and his cohorts over in California at Calit 2. And they're doing supercomputer processing time. Looking at patterns forming by processing many, many images, and Lev happened to sit next to him at dinner one night, and he said he had to use Google Images in Art Store to undertake his research, and he was very cheesed off that cultural institutions didn't put more of their collection material available online. So I turned around and actually explained to him that we have an issue with not just rights, but with the ability to get as much of our material available online quickly, because it takes time and money. And he's doing really interesting work there, and if anyone wants to have a chat about that later, I'd really like to share that with you. But through this project, we're looking at, I guess, making ontological tools available in computer processable forms, and we're looking to support the world of linked data. And this is a bit of a snapshot, I don't take this as gospel, of the kind of technical setup that we're going to have, but I wish that I had tools to map the social networking and the talking that's going on right across the museum sector, across the GLAM sector, and with some of our partners in e-research and humanities, arts and social sciences to actually map some of the discussions going on as a result of this project. So, I guess I'm encouraged very much by working in an organisation that supports taking risks and getting its data out there online and being able to make mistakes and pick up on those mistakes and move on. And I put that as an encouragement, I guess, in this world of making data accessible, some of the wonderful things that you enable by making